You've heard the word blockchain thrown around like it's some kind of magic internet money thing. Bitcoin, crypto, NFTs, all that stuff. But nobody actually explains what blockchain is. They just assume you know, or they hit you with so much tech jargon that your brain shuts off halfway through. So let me break it down for you in a way that actually makes sense. Because understanding blockchain isn't just about crypto anymore. This technology is about to change everything about how money, contracts, and power actually work in the world. Here's the most basic way to think about it. Imagine you and your friends go out for dinner. The bill comes, someone pays, and everyone else needs to send their share. Simple, right? Except when Ted tries to Venmo his part and the transaction fails. Bank error. Or maybe his account got flagged. Or there's a daily limit hit. Or the app is down. Or there's some random fee nobody mentioned. Suddenly, a simple transaction between friends becomes this whole thing involving banks, apps, verification delays, and a bunch of middlemen who all want to cut. Blockchain says screw all that. What if instead of trusting a bank or an app to handle the transaction, you had a system where everyone could see every transaction, verify it themselves, and nobody could cheat or change the records? That's blockchain. It's basically a shared record book that everyone can see. Nobody can fake, and no single person or company controls. Let's go deeper. Blockchain is literally a chain of blocks. Each block is like a page in a ledger that records transactions. When Phil sends Jack 2 Bitcoin, that transaction gets written into a block. That block contains the details: who sent what to who, how much they had before, how much they have after. But here's the genius part. That block also contains a reference to the block that came before it. So every new block is connected to the previous one, creating a chain. Change one block, and every block after it breaks. The whole chain can see that something's been messed with. Now, this ledger isn't sitting on one computer in some bank vault. It's distributed across thousands of computers all over the world. Everyone running the blockchain has a copy of the entire ledger. So if Phil tries to lie and say he sent Jack 2 Bitcoin when he only has one, everyone else's copy of the ledger will flag that as invalid. The system rejects it automatically. No bank needed. No customer service call. The math just doesn't work, so the transaction doesn't happen. This is why people say blockchain is trustless. Not because you can't trust it, but because you don't need to trust anyone. You're not trusting a bank, to be honest. You're not trusting an app to work. You're trusting math and code, and math doesn't lie. Math doesn't have a bad day. Math doesn't freeze your account because of some algorithm that flagged your name. But let's be real about what makes this actually secure. Because you're probably thinking, okay, if everyone has a copy, can't someone just hack their copy and change it? Here's where it gets interesting. Every block has something called a hash. Think of a hash like a fingerprint. It's a unique code generated from all the data in that block. Change even one tiny detail in the block, one number, one letter, and the hash completely changes. It's like if you changed one cell in your body and suddenly your entire fingerprint was different. So if someone tries to tamper with a block, the hash changes. And remember, every block contains the hash of the block before it. So if you change block number 5, block 6 now has the wrong hash reference. Block 7 is also wrong. The whole chain breaks. And since everyone else on the network still has the correct version, your fake version gets rejected instantly. You'd have to change your copy, convince more than half of everyone else on the network to accept your fake version, and recalculate all the hashes for every block after the one you changed. That's basically impossible on a large network. Before we keep going, if this is starting to click and you realizing how much of the financial system is built on trust that maybe shouldn't exist, hit that subscribe button for Money Trap channel. We're breaking down the systems they don't want you to understand. The ones that keep you dependent on middlemen and institutions that profit off your confusion. No fluff, no hype, just the truth. Alright, let's keep going. Now, you might be wondering, if blockchain is so secure, why do people still hack crypto? Good question. Here's the thing. Blockchain itself is extremely hard to hack. But the stuff around blockchain, the wallets, the exchanges, the apps, those can absolutely be hacked. It's like having an unbreakable safe, but leaving the key under your doormat. The safe is fine. You're the problem. There's also something called a 51% attack. If someone could control more than half of the computers running a blockchain network, they could theoretically manipulate it. But on big networks like Bitcoin, that would require so much computing power and money that it's not even worth trying. You'd spend billions of dollars to maybe hack a system that would immediately lose all its value once people realized it was compromised. It's like spending $1 million to rob a bank that only has 10,000 in it. Doesn't make sense. But smaller blockchains, newer ones with fewer participants, those are more vulnerable. And that's where you see sketchy stuff happen. Some random crypto project gets launched. The creators control most of the network. They manipulate it, cash out, and disappear. That's not blockchain failing. That's humans being humans. Let's talk about how transactions actually work on a blockchain, because this is where it gets wild. When you want to send someone Bitcoin, you're not actually sending them a physical thing. You're broadcasting a message to the entire network saying, hey, I'm transferring ownership of this Bitcoin from my address to this other address. Your address is public. Everyone can see it. But you also have a private key, like a password, that only you know. You use that private key to sign the transaction, proving it's really you making the transfer. That signed transaction gets broadcast to the network. Now thousands of computers called miners start competing to verify it and add it to a block. They're solving complex math problems, and the first one to solve it gets to add the block to the chain. As a reward, they get new Bitcoin. That's called mining. It's how new Bitcoin gets created and how transactions get verified at the same time. Once that block is added, your transaction is confirmed. Jack now has the Bitcoin. Your wallet and his wallet both update. Every single computer on the network updates their copy of the ledger. The whole thing happens without a bank, without Venmo, without PayPal taking a fee. Just peer-to-peer, person-to-person, verified by math. Now here's where blockchain gets really interesting beyond just money. Remember, a blockchain can record any kind of transaction or data. It doesn't have to be currency. It could be a contract. It could be a deed to a house. It could be medical records. It could be a vote in an election. Anything that needs to be recorded, verified, and secured can technically go on a blockchain. Let's say you're buying a house. Right now, that process involves lawyers, banks, title companies, inspectors, endless paperwork, and weeks of waiting. Every step requires you to trust someone. Trust the seller actually owns the house. Trust the bank to process the mortgage correctly. Trust the title company to verify there are no liens. Trust the government records are accurate. And every single one of those trust points costs you money. With blockchain, the deed to the house could be a digital token. Ownership is recorded on the blockchain, publicly verifiable, impossible to fake. When you buy it, the ownership transfers instantly. The mortgage, the title check, everything could be automated through something called a smart contract. That's code that executes automatically when certain conditions are met. You send the money, the deed transfers. No lawyers needed. No title company taking a cut. No waiting for banks to process paperwork. It just happens. Smart contracts are basically programs that live on the blockchain and execute themselves. If this happens, then do that. If payment is received, transfer ownership. If deadline passes, refund money. They remove the need for middlemen in tons of situations. Insurance claims could be processed automatically. Royalties for artists could be paid instantly every time their work is used. Supply chains could be tracked end-to-end with no possibility of fraud. Walmart is already using blockchain for this. They had problems with their supply chain. Products arriving damaged, but they couldn't figure out where in the process things went wrong. Was it at the farm? During shipping? At the warehouse? They started using blockchain to record every step. Now when a customer complains about a bad product, Walmart can trace it back through every single checkpoint and see exactly where the problem happened. That's transparency and accountability at a level that wasn't possible before. But here's where things get complicated. Because blockchain isn't just one thing. There are different types, and they work differently depending on who controls them and what they're used for. Public blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum are open to anyone. You can download the software, start running a node, participate in the network. Nobody's in charge. It's fully decentralized. That's the whole point. No government, no company. No person can shut it down or control it. It exists as long as people keep running it. That's powerful, but it's also slow and energy intensive because of how the security works. Then there are private blockchains. These are controlled by a single organization, like a company or a bank. They use blockchain technology for the security and transparency benefits, but they decide who can participate. It's faster and more efficient, but you're back to trusting whoever runs it. It's like having all the features of blockchain, but none of the decentralization that makes it revolutionary in the first place. There are also consortium blockchains, where a group of organizations run it together. Think of banks teaming up to create a shared blockchain for faster international transfers. They all verify each other's transactions, but the public can't participate. It's a middle ground between public and private. And then there are hybrid blockchains that mix elements of both. Some data is public, some is private. Some parts are decentralized, others are controlled. It depends on what the use case needs. The point is, blockchain isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. Different problems need different approaches. And that's where a lot of the hype around blockchain falls apart. People treat it like it's magic, like it can solve everything. It can't. For a lot of things, a regular database is faster, cheaper, and more practical. Blockchain makes sense when you need decentralization, transparency, and security without a trusted middleman. If you don't need those things, blockchain is overkill. Let's talk about the future, because this is where things get really interesting and kind of scary. Blockchain is still early. Bitcoin launched in 2009. We're only 15 years in. The internet existed for decades before it became what it is today. Blockchain is on a similar trajectory. Right now it's clunky, expensive, and most people don't understand it. But that's changing fast. We're moving towards something called Web3, which is basically a decentralized internet built on blockchain. Right now, the internet is controlled by a handful of massive companies. Google, Facebook, Amazon, they own your data. They control what you see. They decide who gets to participate. Web3 flips that. You own your data. You control your identity. No company can ban you or censor you because there's no central authority. It's peer-to-peer, just like the original vision of the internet before corporations took over. But that raises huge questions. If there's no central authority, who stops illegal activity? Who moderates content? Who protects people from scams? Right now, those are problems without clear answers. Decentralization is powerful, but it also means nobody's in charge when things go wrong. There's also the issue of quantum computing. Right now, blockchain security is based on cryptography that would take current computers millions of years to crack. But quantum computers, which are being developed right now, could theoretically break that encryption in minutes. If that happens, every blockchain could be vulnerable. The race is already on to develop quantum-resistant blockchains before quantum computers become a real threat. And then there's the question of who really benefits from all this. Blockchain is often sold as this democratizing technology that gives power back to regular people. And in some ways, that's true. But let's be honest. The people who got into Bitcoin early made fortunes. The people building the infrastructure for Web3 are getting rich. Meanwhile, regular people are still trying to figure out how to buy crypto without getting scammed. There is a real risk that blockchain just becomes another way for people with money and knowledge to extract wealth from people without it. The technology is neutral. It's a tool. But tools can be used for good or bad, depending on who's holding them. Right now, blockchain is being shaped by venture capitalists, tech brothers, and governments trying to figure out how to regulate it without losing control. The outcome of that battle will determine whether blockchain actually delivers on its promise or just becomes another system that benefits the people at the top. Here's what you need to understand. Blockchain is real. It's not a scam. It's not just hype. It's a fundamental shift in how data can be stored, verified, and transferred without needing to trust a central authority. That has massive implications for money, contracts, ownership, identity, all the things that make modern society function. But it's also not a magic solution. It's not going to replace every system overnight. And it's definitely not going to make everyone rich just because they bought some random cryptocurrency. Most crypto projects are garbage. Most NFTs are worthless. Most blockchain companies are just slapping the word blockchain on regular products to attract investors. The real revolution is in the underlying technology and what it enables. Peer-to-peer transactions without banks. Transparent supply chains without fraud. Digital ownership that can't be faked. Contracts that execute themselves without lawyers. These are real use cases that are already happening and will only grow. If you're thinking about getting involved with blockchain or crypto, do your homework. Understand what you're buying. Understand the risks. Don't invest money you can't afford to lose. And for the love of everything, don't fall for get-rich-quick schemes. They're everywhere in this space, and they're designed to separate you from your money. Blockchain is a tool. Learn how it works, understand its strengths and limitations, and then decide for yourself how it fits into your life. Because whether you like it or not, blockchain is going to be part of the future. The question is whether you're going to understand it and use it to your advantage, or whether you are going to be another person who gets left behind while other people build wealth and power using technology you do not understand. The system has always been rigged in favor of people who control information and access. Blockchain has the potential to change that, but only if enough people understand it and demand that it's used fairly. Otherwise, it will just become another tool for the powerful to stay powerful while everyone else watches from the sidelines. So now you know what blockchain is. You know how it works. You know what it can do and what it can't. The question is, what are you going to do with that knowledge? Are you going to keep learning? Are you going to explore how this technology could affect your money, your career, your future? Or are you going to shrug it off and hope it doesn't matter? Because I'll tell you right now, it matters. Blockchain is already changing finance. It's changing how contracts work. It's changing ownership. And in the next 10 years, it's going to change a whole lot more. The people who understand it will have opportunities. The people who don't will be at the mercy of people who do. If you made it this far, you're already ahead of most people. You're asking the right questions. You're not just accepting what you're told. Keep that energy. Keep learning. Keep questioning. And check out whatever video pops up on your screen next. We're building something here. A community of people who refuse to stay in the dark while the world changes around them. Let's keep going.